So fine, I'll take a quick walkthrough today to introduce to you this most happening programming language of the world, Python
Yeah,
introduction.
yeah,
Let me just give a glimpse of this with the overview to you, Pradeep. So this is what all the magic happening in the world. This is a last 3 years statistic I'm trying to represent to you. Survey has proved that among the available worlds of programming languages, right from the conventional programming language like C to the object-oriented language like C++, Java, and other scripting languages, today the world is witnessing a tremendous, significant learning curve towards most happening object-oriented programming, open source in nature, called the Python. You can see the market demand going on with near 27% of the world looking seriously towards Python as a premier language for varieties of tasks. Now, this was from the 2016, and when we move to the 2017 statistics, that was a couple of years ago. Yeah, and you might see Python standing as the number one in the row, apart from the most happening programming and other database related technologies. So this is what the picture that we need to look in. Why this Python is being recognized as most prominent language, right? Now, let me speak the reality first, then deep dive into the context. Now, you might be aware the current ongoing job trend in the market in the IT segment. This is what the picturesque effect that we have drawn the statistics for a period of time from the last 4 to 5 years. This is what the market has witnessed. There is a tremendous positive exponential rise of the usage of programming language called Python, with 57% of the world users depending on usage of Python programming for various needs, be it a web application development, be it a machine learning activity, AI project, or the data science umbrella. Take anything. Python has got that richness to cope up with any kind of task. But whereas the other programming technologies like the most happening Java, the next to Java, that is .NET application development programming language, and the Perl, the scripting, are witnessing a decline. Witnessing a decline from the over a period of years, although they are surviving, but Python has still dominated them. So the big data space. I hope Pradeep, you have been aware of the big data environment, right?
yes, yes, Mohan, yeah,
This is the most happening area of the current 21st century, because big data. Now, what is this big data actually, right? Organizations are witnessing a huge rise of volumes of data in terms of varieties and the biasedness, that is the most troublesome veracity. And imagine the speed at with which this data is growing, the velocity. Now, the question for most of the majority of the organizations is, can there be a programming language in the world that is so easy, portable, flexible to be used, and might have the richness to support the programmatic, sophisticated mind of programmer that can result in wonderful products that aid in the day-to-day routine problem solving? Now, the answer to this question is Python. You can see from the last couple of years, the percentage demand, growth in demand, the usage of Python for various needs by various sectors is near 97%, where no other technology is really near to it. But to be strong enough to unleash the power of Python, I advise one must also look into, along with Python, the application platform, that is operating systems, and the backend support databases, relational databases that add more value to this wonderful giant. Now, before we deep dive into our context of what is Python, why one should learn Python, I would like to speak a couple of minutes about a scripting language. Now, what is this scripting language? You might have heard a programming language, right? See, from a traditional programmatic environment where a programmer or a software coder might identify some requirement specification, develop some kind of a program in a chosen platform of his or her choice, then compile it, rectify the syntax and semantic errors, then produce an output. This was the era that we have lived in with. But slowly, over a period of time, there appeared an alternative to this compilers called the interpreter. Now, what does this do? So, to understand the need of the interpreter, we must first look into, is there a possible application platform that works closely with the operating system functions? unlike the compiler where a bundled code or a set of programmatic lines are compiled together. The interpreter majorly focuses on executing bytecode, that is a line by line execution, and transferring it to the memory and its execution by the OS, irrespective of the hardware type that you support. So this was the major objective why scripting languages have been highly recognizing so much importance. One such scripting language that has proven its capabilities and its demand is Python. So Python is essentially in its basic form a scripting language, and it's a scalable interpreter. The code can be written in the form of a bytecode line by line and can be scaled to and can be customized. Now, what is Python? It is yet another high level programming language from the programming family, and there are various reasons and features why the world is crazy about it. The first and best most feature is, unlike the compilers that run Java, C, C++ programs, Python runs in an interpreter environment, as I told. And being an interpreted code, it provides the richness for a programmer to be much more interactive, customize programs, understand the immediate execution of a statement, and making them think what is expected and what was tried. The most prominent and appealing feature of Python is its object oriented nature. Now, this is not a new thing, object oriented, to most of you, but how differently Python is object oriented than any others in the race is, like if we debate on the nature of the semantics of any programming language like C, C++, Java, you might be aware data types are the most biggest strength of any programming language. How do you actually perceive a data type? It's a representation of content in a memory of a computer. Data flows in very varieties, like the price of an object in the real world can be an integer or a float. A human can have a name as string type. So these are all the identities of the objects in the real world. Most of the conventional and object oriented languages recognize them with an explicit data type declaration, like integers are identified by a int declaration, decimal values are identified by float declaration. So this is implicit. One must depend on these implicit declarations. But if you see Python has got such a love and affection by the program community because there is no need to declare or specify any data type while programmers use their objects. The context object means a real world existing thing like a name, like an employee ID, a department name, product ID, customer name, so on and so forth. All these need not be declared any data type inherently before using them. Thus, I quote, Python is truly object oriented in its format. That's why this has been preferred the beginners programming language. Anybody and everybody can easily deep dive into it because the language restrictions on Python are not that conducive and when compared to others. Now, a quick walkthrough about these two. Why Python has been preferred to run in an interpreter environment rather than compiler. So as you know, a compiled language requires an editor to generate a logic and code and then verify the syntax semantics and then execute the code all in once. If a chance any line or source code goes by mistake or accident or unknowingly an error, the entire code just runs into an error. Now this happens to be a very drawback in case of utilizing programming languages for developing scalable applications. Hence, Python majorly focuses on giving programmer independence by withdrawing these basic syntax rules and semantic rules and enabling them to best utilize the rich features of it. Hence, Python is opted to work out in an interpreter environment. I hope Pradeep you're understanding, right?
Yes, Mohan, yeah.
Fantastic, right? Now, this is what I was quoting, and the flow of a compiler, be it any program or web application or designing an OS or a compiler, shall all go like this. Now, this is the man in the picture. I hope you are seeing him. This is the Guido van Rossum, the founding father of Python in the early 80s, who has paved the foundation for this rich programming and has made it the master, being utilized in multiple business vertical domains day to day. There are many patches going on to the Python from this guy and his team, and we are enjoying the rich benefits of latest releases too. Now, let us comment on the features. I'm asking me, why should I learn Python when you might have already lived a life with great programming languages? See, what are all you're seeing on the screen also apply to most of the programming languages, right? But I would like to comment on the last point, Pradeep, like portability, scalability, rich library support are all available in Java, C, C++. But my support, my claim towards Python is it's rich in object-oriented nature. Like you can see a small screen tip that I'm sharing to you. I would like to store a typical integer 36 in my computer memory, wherein I just declare some object called x. Right now, to make this happen in a regular programming language, I must implicitly tell to my compiler environment the type of the object and the value to be stored. If I don't implicitly specify the type of the object, my compiler does not permit me to use this object in the programmatic environment. Now, this seriously is a great concern for beginners. By chance, if you don't declare a data type, or you declare a type but you store another value in it, the type conversion errors or type mismatch errors might arise. These are somewhat tedious, uncovered hidden mistakes that normally many programmers. Python has a richness to overcome these errors by completely avoiding the data type declaration. Now, you must get surprised. How does Python interpreter actually identify this data type? The logic behind this is dynamic data inference. Python depends on DDI. Dynamic data inference is the value that is you're plugging in to the variable or the memory decides allows Python to assign the type implicitly. That's why when I store 36 in X and use the function type on X, the class of the value being stored is represented as integer. So this is one of the most appealing feature for most of the programmers and beginners and laymen to work with Python environment. Now, there are many other things. The real world applications that Python being put into industry is uh, application development, mostly GUI, web-based application development, supports object in nature, and the most foremost that brought much recognition to Python is its richness of library packages that are abundant in nature to support the most happening data science. Uh, Several varieties of packages, right from basic to the advanced, to support machine learning, both supervised and unsupervised, the phenomenal artificial intelligence, and many more area, deep learning, are all being a cakewalk through utilization of Python libraries,
So
right?
this garbage collection is like .NET memory,
Hmm.
right?
It's much like a garbage collection is much like similar to other programming languages.
It is used for the memory allocation, right?
The only difference is, example, let me give a practical. How do you swap two values, Pradeep? Like to make you aware. For example, you read two values into your memory variables, right? Your intention here is to swap one into another. How do you achieve that? Do you have any idea, like how a programmer codes in a traditional environment, how to swap two values one into another?
Yeah, we will put, we will take some two variable and we will put, the value in the variables like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Normally, the traditional approach is like you might declare a two variables x and y, like you rightly said. But in order to make the swapping happen, there must be a alternative temporary location, right? Wherein you move one of the values to a temporary location, vacate the current variable, then reverse the process.
Hmm.
How many lines of code and how many bytes of memory the computer actually must reserve for? So nobody, no programmer actually doesn't look deep in it. All the goal here is to swap, but complete the task. Python seriously looks into this swapping process not only from a programmatic perspective, but effective memory utilization. Like, how does this do? There are explicit assignment operators that directly, without usage of any function, I mean, you can directly swap in the values by using data structures, simple data structure like a tuple, without much coding and without requiring even a temporary third variable. So the effective utilization of memory, you might have heard the word dynamic memory, right?
Yes, got it, got
Dynamic
it, got it.
memory, yeah, dynamic memory, which is one of the most difficult implementations in a traditional language like C, much improved one in C plus Java, is being better handled by Python. So this is yet another appealing feature when people deal with a lot of variations in their application development. especially when data scientists deal with varieties of data to be handled. This feature also adds much richness to the programmatic environment.
Okay, got it. Yeah, yeah,
Hope you understood. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
This is what the simple reasons, the branding of Python, several reasons, these are pretty fair. Now, where do you get this from? First question. Like, for your information, Python is an open source application. This is published open source and freely useful by anybody and everybody. The location is, you can visit python.org, the parent site. You can download the Python versions which are available. The initial build version was starting from one build. There are revisions 2 and 3 in the market. Currently 3 is being utilized. But this is a very basic version of Python that the community started using from decades of years. There are much implementations and innovations done in this area. So one can choose between the application type and the processor that suits to based on their operating system and download and install it. Now, after installing, what happens? This is what the environment that you might find. At its basic level, when you install Python in your machine and want to work with a little exercises, you might start working in varieties of ways. There are different environments in which Python works. One is a basic command line prompt, that is the Python command prompt, which looks much like your operating system command prompt. The much revised better version is a interactive shell, what you're seeing on the screen. This is the Python command operator symbol, and you can open this Python shell from your Windows start button, locate it and launch it. So the shell is completely a CUI command, CUI character user interface, which awaits for a user to key in an input. But to make the environment look richer and more comfortable and flexible, Python's shell is developed in IDLE, that stands for Integrated Development Learning Environment, abbreviation, which looks much like a simple like an editor that one can type in and even package a group of statements like a Python code bundle and run it collectively as a whole. So this was a little introduction. Python files have extension. They are saved with an extension as .py. Technically, a line of code or a collective statements of code are known as Python script. Now, uh, this is what a simple basic introduction of a Python. Now, these are all what the elements that are available, like as other programming languages. Python also permits the usage of identifiers, because after all, although being object oriented, elements, named entities that one wishes to use in their programming environment must be identified properly. All the generic rules of other programming languages that you might have witnessed are also applicable here for identifiers. Special case character underscore is permitted and nothing else are permitted. These are the keywords which are common in Python like as other programming languages. These are the operators: arithmetic for basic calculations, comparison for manipulating the data, assignment to assign variables and do post and pre-assignment calculations, decision making with logical, and membership and identity operators. Variable, this is where I would like to focus on, like a very simple variable declaration. Like I can declare real world objects of my choice, ABC. I call it objects, and indefinitely I may call it variables also, where I can directly assign a value using a simple assignment operator. So how does Python actually recognizes the value assigned to a variable? As you recollect my last couple of minutes, I was saying the dynamic data inference is a methodology that Python actually identifies based on the value that was assigned to it. Apart from this, multiple assignments like in other programming languages are also permitted, provided they're all of the same type. So let me just show you how to actually work with. Can you see my Windows desktop, Pradeep?
Yes, yes, ma'am. Yeah.
So I just first show you the parent site that I visited to download this. So www.python.org is my parent site that I would like to visit to collect my open source Python distribution. This is the community forum that takes stake for development and release of the Python builds version. On the download version, you can download the latest version. Currently, the 2.x and 3.x versions are available. 3.x is the most preferred one with simple revisions in the 2.x version. Now, I have downloaded this version and I just find it my installation somewhere here. Python. Yes, I have Python 2.7 and Python 3.6, the core versions being released. If I use Python 3.6, my machine is 64-bit. I'll try to open it in a command prompt. First time, let me show you. This is a traditional command prompt that I was speaking about. Let me show you the idle. This is Anaconda. I'll comment it on Anaconda very soon. Python, yeah. Python 3.6 and the idle here. This is the Python shell, the interactive Python shell that appears for us. So with a little GUI facilities that are available to give a rich editor-like facilities for beginners of Python, this is what works. See, simple mathematical calculations are easily made possible here. So to add two numbers in a programming language, you might be knowing one must go through a declaration of a function with header files, variable declaration, assignment data types, all hectic work. Whereas these are all avoided with a simple. That's why Python is much user friendly in its basic format. So this is a very rich introduction about the Python. But over a period of time, community of software developers recognize the need of utilizing Python for multilingual or very different dimension use. So Continuum Analytics organization came forward and gave rise to the most happening Anaconda Python. Like what is this Anaconda Python? I'll just show you. You need to visit the site anaconda.org. Now, most of the business platforms take from banking, healthcare, pharma, retail, anything, whatnot, everything in the world today are being controlled by data. That's why 21st century companies are data driven. Now, the community started rethinking, can we develop some kind of intelligent application solutions powered, driven by data that can actually provide us efficient and effective decision making? So the idea was good, but do we have a technology platform that really empowers development of such applications? The answer was the Anaconda Python. So what does this Anaconda Python does? Anaconda Python is an integrated suite collection of many different tools, basically the Python application software and its rich library packages. Now let me just show
So
the
what
rich
is
library.
NumPy? Why we are using this NumPy? NumPy
Yeah,
and
I am.
Anaconda.
Yeah, I'm commenting on that, Pradeep. Yeah,
Okay.
this is where I am. Can you now see the screen? Yes. See, the heart of any programming language is its library, right?
Yeah.
Without utilization of library functions, there is no programming language that can better be utilized. Python is also very rich in most happening library functions. First and most fundamental one, as you're asking, NumPy, stands for numerical Python. Pradeep, for information, most of the world's data is numerical. What do you say? Most of the world's data. Take human body data, blood pressure, height, weight, age. Take stock market data, rise and fall of the stocks values.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Take weather, temperature, atmospheric pressure. Most of the world's data are numeric. Now, question here is, when such volumes of numeric data continuously keep on growing, basic mathematical and statistical computations can be achieved to a little extent. But can we really make out some knowledge management from those numbers? Do that numbers speak anything? Yes. The answer from the statistical research community was yes. But the ability was unable to handle in terms of storage and computation. Python could answer this simple query by introducing its basic and phenomenal the NumPy package, which contains various mathematical statistical functions pertaining to linear algebra, Fourier transformation, random number management, and many more. This is the NumPy package. Associated with NumPy package is the next most in the row, the Pandas package. See, the biggest problem for any organization today is data storage and retrieval. What do you say? Data storage and retrieval. We have seen right from file systems to traditional database systems to relational database systems. A point one must understand here is when time grows, the volume of the data and the varieties keep on growing. Storage might not be a greatest challenge, but the biggest thought is what is the problems during data retrieval? Okay, data retrieval can also be achieved, but can we articulate by manipulating the data and retrieve something which is really hidden inside the data? These are all the different thoughts going on in the mind of technocrats. Now, on top of NumPy, Python's family includes yet another programmatic package useful for many varieties of data manipulation, right from storage, structured, rearrangement, pivoting. All these are possible. Data wrangling, munging, cleaning are all happening through the Pandas package. Now, apart from these two, Python also believes in the most strengthened concept for programmers called data visualization. See, if I give you the task of representing the population of 10 countries in a comparative format, would you like to store the data in a database and query it, or would you like to store in a simple file system and visualize it? So, what is your approach, Pradeep? I got my point. Like if I give you the population statistics data collection of 10 different countries over a period of 5 year slot, and I ask you to store it in a database and retrieve, like you might store it effectively, right? But what is the challenges during retrieval? So query processing takes much time, right? But do you think is can there be a better alternative to actually slice the data in terms
Mhm.
of certain parameters and get the grasp of it through a simple visualization, right? Visualizations really add value during data analysis and management. To accomplish this, Python uses the matplotlib library. So NumPy, Pandas, and matplotlib are the basic essential libraries that one must actually work with. But these libraries actually appeal to the areas of machine learning, artificial intelligence, other things. Now, but to create some kind of web-based application development, unlike data analysis, Python also suits for modern web-based development and can also deal with streaming data. So streaming data is a live data that generates over a period of time slice. For that, Python uses the bokeh package. Now, Python is also a great user-friendly tool that coexists, shakes hands with many traditional legacy and the most happening database systems. Today we live with from SQL to NoSQL, MongoDB, right, Cassandra, which are the most happening database systems. To make the access of the data from multiple sources, in the two in not small volumes but chunks, huge volumes, Python uses the Blaze package. But apart from this, the data science area to conduct machine learning algorithms to develop intelligent AI-based models and deep learning models, the Python prefers its phenomenal scikit-learn package. The scikit-learn package is a rich collection of machine learning algorithms, supervised, unsupervised, reinforcement, semi-supervised algorithms ranging from a simple regression, typical classification, to the clustering activity and the most impressive dimensionality reduction, principal component analysis. These are all the various techniques, algorithms that reside in scikit-learn. Now, this is a very quick snapshot of uh, commonly used Python libraries, but these are only not limited ones. There are many others in this family. The exhaustive list is too much in this. All this list is available and bundled for us to use in this Anaconda cloud. Anaconda Python is a distribution of Python software provided with all these list of libraries, packages, what you're seeing. Now, why should one use Anaconda Python when you already are flexible with Python? So Python in its basic format is a simple tool to begin with. But if you want to work with these packages, you must first install these packages. Can you see my screen, Pradeep? Pip install.
Yes, yes, I
You,
can see.
yeah, you can just install an NumPy package. You can install an NumPy. You must be connected to your internet because these packages are available from the python.org documentation. One must install these packages, then start importing those packages into the Python environment, be it in shell or be it in command prompt, and then start working with those functions. So this becomes for a period of time a repetitive and difficult task. So to avoid that, the Anaconda platform comes bundled with these kind of inbuilt packages and the Python distribution. But how to access that? The Anaconda family, I'm just after installing it. Can you see this Anaconda 3? Anaconda 3 version I have installed. It is available in 2.x and 3.x. So after I've installed it, these are all the plethora of tools I have in my Anaconda family. Right from a basic navigator that I can choose different applications to the most preferred platform for the Python coding, be it for web application development, machine learning applications, AI programs, deep learning models, the Jupyter notebook. So how to launch it? I'll launch it from my Anaconda family, the Jupyter notebook. Now, what is this Jupyter notebook? So now, can you see my screen? Jupyter notebook. See, you might have heard a tool that Java programmers often use in industry, Java Eclipse. You might have heard
Like,
this, Pradeep, Java
yes, I
Eclipse.
heard, yes, because I
It's
did
an
not get
integrated
one.
development environment that provides the user-friendly nature of developing a simple code, compiling it to a class module, converting it to a jar file, reusing the jar file for various activities. So the same notion was followed here in the Jupyter notebook. This is the most preferred IDE by most of the industrial developers for working with Python. Apart from this, there are other things like PyCharm. The Spider notebook is also there. I'll show the Spider notebook to you. This thing is an interactive and scripting language, and it works on a browser-based environment. Like the client application launches the Jupyter notebook on a browser or your local browser, wherein you can key in your code and submit the script to run on a server technically. So what are all things that can happen here? The basic programmatic things, the data manipulation, analytics things, visualization, model building, parallel computing, distributed processing, whatnot. All things that are all possible in other programming environments are also done here. So I visit anaconda.org to download my Windows distribution, and I have my Jupyter running here. So it opens in a browser-based environment, as I told. So let me just show you the Anaconda 3 Python. So I have yet another Anaconda 3 running here. Where is that slot? Yes. This is the Spider notebook. So Anaconda Jupyter notebook is an interactive cell-based environment where one user can key in a code, a single statement or a group of statements, and interactive Spider is like a notepad-like text editor where you can collectively develop a program. That's my screenshot. It's taking time to open. So this is the look and feel of your Jupyter. Once you click on Jupyter, the dashboard opens, showing you the current list of files, directories. The running applications are provided running tab and the clusters here. So, but this is not the basic window. This is a startup dashboard. If you want to create your first Jupyter notebook where you want to key in your commands, you might find a new button on the right side here. This is a new button. I provide zoom view for you. Just click the drop down new button. If you have installed Python 2, you notice a Python 2 application. If you have installed Python 3, you'll notice a Python 3 application. Once you click on it, you'll log into your Jupyter notebook. This is the interactive cell, interpreter-based, browser-based Python 3 environment. Pointer appearing in your inputs like you can plug in integers, decimal numbers, strings, concatenate them, declare objects, variables, assign them, work with expressions, sum up the variables, subtract them, and do whatnot. You can do anything, right? So this is a glimpse of the Jupyter notebook. Now this is a spider environment. Can you see the spider environment, Pradeep?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is an interactive spider environment. Why one should use spider when you already have Jupyter is like you can coding your lines of code collectively, transfer them to the console here, execute them, and have a quick look at the complete picture of the line of code, the variable being used, the state of the data item or the variable in the computer memory. It's a real ideal here. So initial programmers of Python are recommended to work with Jupyter. Then after getting some little hands-on experience, you can shift to working with the Spider environment. I'll show the Jupyter notebook here. Anaconda 3 Jupyter. This is browser issue. I think it's not taking time to open the two versions involved. Let me close my browser.
Hello.
Pradeep, are you there? Pradeep, are you there? Can you see my screen?
No, I cannot see. I cannot see yours.
I'm just sharing it. So I was refreshing the browser to activate my Jupyter. I think now it's visible for you, right?
Yes, yeah, yeah.
So this is my quick link. I'll just show you again. I was commenting on the opening of Jupyter Notebook, the kernel activity. I'll just come back from the root. Right. So launch my Windows desktop, go to the Anaconda install version, the Jupyter Notebook, currently 3. So the kernel loads first. I'll comment on what this kernel is. So this is the dashboard I was trying to convey to you, the initial look and feel of your Anaconda Jupyter. To create your first Jupyter, just click on the new button, click Python 3. This is your first visit to your Jupyter notebook. The kernel is ready for us, and you can key in any commands, the basic mathematical operations that you can key. This is called this cell. In its default format in a Jupyter notebook, a cell is an input cell in the code format. So code format is a ready to be executable command that you can enter into the interpreter. How to run this command? You have a run button. I think you can see this run button, or with the keyboard shortcut, you can use the shift and enter keys. So you'll get the output cell showing the result of this compilation. Now, variable usage or object. As I told, Python is a dynamic data inferencing object-oriented tool. So I would like to store a value 10 in it. So what I mean, how does Python interpret this line of code? It believes that the user is trying to input value 10 and I must store it in object A. So I just key in here. So the value is stored. How to view it? The traditional standard output statement in Python is a print statement. Within parentheses, supply the object name. If you are using a 2 version of Python, you don't need to use a parenthesis. But if you are using version 3 of Python, you need to enclose it in the parenthesis. Print A, the value 10 is printed. Or directly you can type the name of the object without using any standard statements. Still you can access the memory location of the object. Now let us cross check Python's intelligence. Type of A. Yes, now A is being identified by Python as integer data type. Now let us see a multiple assignment A equal to B equal to 25. Now will this work? Yes. The value of A is 25, value of B is 25, right? Now X is equal to 10, Y is equal to 20, right? I'll try to represent a data structure. This is a tuple data structure, which is enclosed in parentheses called tuple data structure. Y comma X, Y comma X. Now let me see the value of X. Surprising. I assigned value of X as 10 when I swapped it with a simple assignment and a tuple structure. Now my value is X equal 20. This was what I was asking you. Like to accomplish this task in a traditional programming environment, normally that would be a declaration and followed by variable data type, a third variable that you declare temp, swap them alternatively, and then vacate the memory of temporary variable effectively, then do the garbage collection, and then retrieve the value of swapped variables. I think nothing less than 5 to 6 lines of code, and this is accomplished by a simple line of code, right? So this is what the appealing feature of Python here is. Now, what is this notebook interface consists of? There are commonly 2 standard formats of this notebook, like the code format already shown. When a input cell is in code format, you can plug in your input commands. But what if it is in a markdown format? Like the markdown format is a non-executable. When you type something, it's not an executable command. Python recognizes it as a markdown cell, as a simple heading cell. Like you might add something like user readable headings can be added in the form of a markdown cell. Apart from this, Python is also a very much user-friendly language. I can add an input cell here. Python is rich in its readability. One can add comments. Comments begin with a hash or a pound sign, right? Sample program, right? I declare A equal to 10, B equal to 20, C equal to A plus B, right? I can run all these collectively in a single cell. I'll print A, comma, B, comma, C. All 3 variables I'm accessing at a time. you can see the data being represented in a tuple data structure. So this is one of the basic awareness about what is this Python used for and how programmer can access it. Now, apart from this, you might be keen to know what are all the other things that Python uses. See, the rich feature of Python is its object-oriented nature and the class-oriented nature. What is class and what is object? In real world, class is a generic collection of objects. Like you can see, I am representing a object as car. In general, car can be an object which can belong to any of these categories, right? So the collection of objects can be called as class, and individual representation of each category can be called object. Java also supports this great concept of objects and classes, C++, and Python also supports this greatly. Right. Now, kernel, as I told, behind the working of every Python notebook is the kernel activity. Now, for your knowledge, Pradeep, mm, have you ever experienced the coexistence of Java language and other typical languages like a database or this thing? To what extent these languages can coexist with each other? So that requires a lot of internal work, technical frameworks to be included.
Okay.
Fortunately, Python's richness is its kernel
Mhm.
activity. You can change kernel anytime. What is this kernel here means? The kernel facilitates the interaction between the input cells of the Jupyter notebook environment and not only in the operating system in the machine, but also other application-based environments. Like you can set up a Java kernel, the R statistics software R kernel, C++ kernel, and many other intercommunication application dependencies can be set up via this kernel notebook. That's why today many other application software, like you might have heard about data visualization software called Tableau, right? Tableau is rich in providing the visualizations actually. So one can actually take the data, read the data into Python, churn it, analyze it, generate visualizations in Tableau. So that connectivity can be established easily. Due to this impact, Python is greatly supported for application development, data analysis, data analytics, machine learning, web-based application development, whatnot. The list goes on and on. So, how to choose a kernel? Basically, used kernels for different applications. Python supports over 100 plus languages of kernels, right from the Java, C, even to the very old conventional Fortran too. Now, application development, Julia. Have you heard anything like Django frameworks, Pradeep? Django frameworks?
No, 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 I didn't hear. Yeah.
Yes, web application development using Python is happening with Django frameworks, especially when web developers try to develop highly user interactive and sophisticated web applications that have a backend integration with content management systems, CMS. So the world is much looking to unleash the power of Python, and this programming language has its own wings spread across multiple needs of the application development. But currently in 21st century, not only into the basic thing of web application development, Python is really felt its appeal in the data science area, where volumes and varieties of data can be easily churned, analyzed, visualized, and modeled predictively for predictive models under the data science umbrella. And many business industry verticals are unleashing the power of artificial intelligence by generating predictive, descriptive, prescriptive models coded in Python programming language. Right? Any queries, Pradeep, till date?
No, 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 thanks. Yeah.
I'll just close this with a simple declaration, like you might be seeing. How does a class declaration and object declaration happens in Python, and how was it happening in C++ and Java? First, I'll show a simple object declaration. I'll create an identifier called object and declare it of type class car. But for that, the class car must be declared. Any user-defined functions, object identifiers, are declared with a colon symbol. The only troublesome topic in Python is its rich indentation. What is indentation? Indentation is a style of representing the program by a professional programmer. When you supply the reserved keywords and follow it by a colon, and when you hit your enter key in the environment in any Jupyter or this thing, the Python automatically indents the next lines of code with a few tabs. So why this style? Indentation represents the professional style of coding so that one can easily identify what a function is, what are the body statements of the function, and where it concludes. So system defined functions, user defined functions are also supported in Python, and its rich greatness is exception handling. As you know, uh, unknown situations during programmatic errors might result in memory corruption. One programmer must develop a mechanism to catch hold of those exceptions and resolve them. Exception handling is also most happening feature in this. So I say declare a class, define a user defined function using def keyword, and then assign the object of that class and pass its values. So when you access any of the methods, display is a method being called by the name of the object. You'll simply notice the elements of the class that are passed, the values passed to the class of variables are being displayed. So this is much, the phenomenon borrowed from object-oriented concepts is much same, but the coding part, the utilization of those is much simple and easier and flexible when compared to other languages. So I hope Pradeep, you got some glimpse over with this little
Yeah,
discussion.
yes, yes, it's nice session. Yes.
And any queries, let me know from your side, and
No, no.
hope to see.
Yeah,
Uh,
right. I don't have any query. Yeah. Yeah.
Fantastic. It shall be taken forward, and wish you all the best, Pradeep, to you and your
Yeah,
work.
yeah. Thanks. Yeah, thanks, man, for
Yeah.
this session.
Bye
Yeah.
bye. See you.
Bye
Take
bye.
care.